Hello there. I've got tons of inspiration to share with you today. My temporary photo album was getting very full, so I thought I would share these layouts with you one more time before putting them in their permanent albums. I'm Erin. Welcome to my channel, Crafty Concepts with Erin. These are mainly double page layouts, and most of them have process videos. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I like to point out fun little design techniques and tips about each layout design, and I've organized these by collection. This is the Friends of the Ocean paper, and it's perfect for, of course, ocean and tropical. The tropical is great because of the bright colors, all things beach, and then in this case, a ride to Disneyland. We were on the Ariel's Undersea Adventure, and I think that's what the ride's called, but perfect for that because of the colors in the photos, very bright and of course ocean themed. And on this layout, we've got a border stamp going across there and then some bubble background stamping. You can see that in this lower corner here. I generally like to, do clusters of 3, not always, but you'll see it often. So again, a little stamping down here. This is a stamp here from Hiba. Really? How about no? And if you watch the process video, you remember, how that comes into play because my son was very annoyed about this gentleman here in the photo. But we've got some Beauty of the Deep, Seaside Wishes, and Friends of the Ocean stamp and die sets all working together to create these fabulous ocean clusters. Love it. The Seaside Wishes is so pretty with those gorgeous sand dollars. Now this one here was actually a scrapbook makeover. I had created or scrapbooked these photos a very long time ago, and I had limited supplies and very limited skill. So I'm glad I don't always do that, but I'm glad I remade this one because I love the photos and the memory. And if you saw the last layout, which I shared in the process video, I think we can all agree this was a good move. So the colors are perfect. As you can see, we were at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So that's another great use for the Ocean Friends. And it's Friends of the Ocean is the paper collection, but I took inspiration from my title, Ocean Friends, because the boys were really enjoying all the creatures at the aquarium. So some of the fun little tips here we printed on journaling. This is something I enjoy doing quite a bit when you want to keep the pattern paper. You don't want to cover all that pretty pattern paper, but you need a spot for your journaling. The vellum is always a great way to do that. And here we have almost like an ombre effect. So these are dies. The large alpha die is called Alphabet a la Mode, and the small one is the mini alphabet. So I've mixed them, and on this one I've done an ink blending. So I taped that down to my surface with a little washi tape, and then Calypso Coral, and then I believe that is Pretty Peacock, just to give that title a little bit more interest and character. And that is something I enjoy doing. I love using alphabet dies because you never run out of the letter you're looking for, right? You can just cut another one, especially when it sticks to your clothing and you end up finding it a day later on your backside or something. So this is also a fun way to use embossing folders. I have just a little bit of embossed detail sticking out on that piece there. And I love adding texture to my layouts, and often embossing folders are sized perfectly for cards. We don't necessarily think of them for scrapbooking, but they make great accents on your scrapbook layout. Here is a single page layout featuring the Friends of the Ocean, and I again have mixed the mini alphabet dies with the stamp set, Catch of the Day. My husband and I were enjoying some seafood at a restaurant while in Monterey, so we've dove into the stash a little bit. This Meals and Memories is an old, close to my heart food-related stamp, and then I've mixed it with Friends of the Ocean and Seaside Wishes, and just created 3 little clusters to kind of just frame in the center photos here, and printed my journaling on a circle here and then cut that out. So I printed on cardstock and then cut it out with the Spotlight on Nature circle die, which is my favorite circle die set because it's a whole bunch of circles and they each have different decorative edges. I call this one the paper plate die because doesn't that look like a paper plate, which ties in perfectly when we are enjoying a meal. I like adding a little bit of bling to my clusters. You can see there, sometimes I tuck them just peeking out from under the embellishments, but you can see more of those there. And those were the, I believe, sunny days dots, which coordinated with this collection beautifully. This collection is very fun as well. We've switched collections, and this is called On the Go, which is travel themed, as you can see in the icons on the paper there. We've got geotags, a city map, and these are my creative design team friends, and we were in Vancouver, kind of trying to find our way around the city and just having a good time. So that's what this layout is about. They're just some city shots, us trying to figure out the parking meter. Just those are fun memories. You know, it's very easy to find a nice background and take photos, but don't forget to include these because those are the ones you often laugh at later when you're like, oh yeah, that was funny. So I did a little stash diving. The acrylic letters were close to my heart, but they match this collection perfectly. That's another acrylic shape from close to my heart. This paper pack included some pocket cards. So I showed how in the video to print on pocket cards and get that perfectly aligned. So we've done that just here. This is part of the pocket card. The suitcase and the little water bottle there was pre-printed with that little map there, and then I stamped the word travel. So it's great to be able to work your journaling into a design on a pocket card, and then you can always add to it. So with the stamping, and then I added a few additional acrylic shapes. This is part of the not the cat hair, that's not part of it, but the keys, and this little like stamp set here is part of the collection. It's called Tags to Go, and it's so cute because we were in the rental car here, so I thought that was fun, and I cut those keys from silver foil paper, and the tags are from the paper too. You'll see me use tags quite a bit, so I fussy cut those out and layered them here just to beef up that embellishment cluster. And kind of same here, that's one of those fussy cut tags. And there's also puffy stickers with this collection, so that's what those are. This is a layout design from the Creative Design Team sketchbooks. We have several sketchbooks. I will link those in the description box below, and they're a great resource for scrapbooking faster, fabulous layouts, right? Isn't this one fun? Lots of different paper layers going on, and the sketchbooks give you all of the measurements, so makes it really easy. This layout features the same on-the-go collection, and I've documented some more travel shots. Now this layout, there's not a process video for on YouTube. I created this live during a customer appreciation crop early May in my customer appreciation Facebook group. So I've just done some fun strips across. When you want to include a lot of pattern paper, this is a great way to do that. And then we have a center focus of our photos, and I've mixed some, 3x4s. I print my main photos. I tend to not do a full 4x6. I make them just smaller. So they're 4 by 5.5, sometimes 4 by 5.25. And I love it. Just that little bit of reduction in size of your photos gives you a lot more canvas while still giving you a big photo on your layout. So this is a pocket card, and the geotag was already on there, but I took inspiration from that pocket card design and stamped out a geotag. A lot of these stamps are from my stash. They're close to my heart stamps. The puffy sticker is part of the collection here, so it's like a little paper clip. You can see I've stamped that word travel again. And then here we go. This was the other half of that pocket card. So I cut it into a tag, poked a little hole, added some twine, and how cute is that? The Today Marks an Adventure is from the coordinating stamp set that goes along with this collection. We've added just a little bit of bling, but I thought that was, again, a great way to dress up a pre-printed pocket card just by adding some stamping. So we have kind of a little subtitle there. And again, the acrylic titles were the same stash busting from my close to my heart goodies that I had. And again, they would just match perfectly. So I thought now is a great time to use them. This was also after my customer appreciation live. This became challenge number 1 for our appreciation crop. It was so fun. It was National Scrapbooking Day weekend, and we just had lots of crafty fun. Switching paper collections, this layout, I actually really love the black background in this paper. I think it's so pretty, and I have some more ideas for this paper. I just haven't been able to bring them to life yet. This is called the Florals, is the Lovely Garden. And then this one here is from Woven Textures. Woven Textures is great. You can mix it in. It's like a collection of neutrals with these great woven textures, hence the name. And there's grays and then the brown undertones. So you'll definitely be seeing more of that paper collection here. So really love how this layout turned out. Chelsea and I here. This is Chelsea. You guys probably watch her videos too. If not, you definitely should. And we were in Maui on a Close to My Heart incentive trip. And we went out to dinner together. This was our first time meeting, so I wanted to document this. And I thought the darker colors were great for evening photos. And then, of course, I drew the inspiration from the black background there. Now, the floral embellishment clusters are a coordinating product with this. As you can see, the flowers tie in, but they are colored with layering stencils. So I showed that in the video, and you can see the depths of green there and the different shades of pink, which really brings those images to life. But those are all stencils. Now this is the Happy Hibiscus. Since we were in a tropical location, I thought let's just add that. And then I've tucked some green sprigs in there, added a little glitter paper. There's that Meals and Memories stamp set again. I love to use my stamps. I've got a big stamp collection, and it's so fun because I often have just the right little detail I'm looking for. These are those same dots I showed, the sunny side dots from the Friends of the Ocean collection. They have this nice pink color, so I added that to here. And I also, as a fun little design element on this layout, I showed in the video how to create this hidden pocket, because as you can see, I didn't leave much room for journaling, but I definitely wanted to include this story. Now, you can see it says on there, the story. That's a stamp set, which lets the viewer know that there is, something inside and to pull the tag out. Now, I often get asked if I cut my page protectors. Only if the pocket is down low. I use a top-loading page protector, so it's very easy to reach into the top and just pull that out to read the journaling. So in this case, I would not cut the paper. Let me show you that stamp set because it's really cool. It's this one here. It's called Love This Moment, and there's a ton of fun little phrases that you could stamp just like I did here, or make little word sentiments on your scrapbook layouts. So all very usable. Say cheese, the story, detail, notes and highlights, this moment, this picture, memories, I love this, when and where, you and me. There's some journaling lines, and then these also make nice little titles. And then you'll see me using these icons later on in a similar manner, and I'll show you that when we get to that layout. But fun little camera, hashtag, geotag, and arrow. So very usable. These can be like a checklist box. So if you're making a list, trying to get the glare off there, you can turn this, rotate it, and line it up and use a little checklist there. So really cool stamp set to have in your crafty stash. We definitely have a few fun techniques on this one here, and I've done a little mixing and matching. Now, this is in a flip flap, which I just have set here. I won't actually attach it until I put it into its forever home, which I'm going to do soon. But when you can see there's that white border at the top there, that's the adhesive strip you peel off. So you won't see that. It'll all be clear when you adhere these flip flaps, but they create this amazing little interactive element that also is a great way to not only include more photos, but the journaling. So this collection is called the Floral Delight, and I did a little bit of mixing and matching of paper collections. The background here is from the Secret Garden collection, and the florals are from this Secret Garden collection. This is a gorgeous floral layering die. Absolutely love it. We were at the Botanical Gardens in Mendocino, and we were in the Dahlia Garden, so I just loved all of the gorgeous flowers. Now here's a fun little tip I'd like to point out. First of all, background stamps like this, or we call them scatter splatter stamps, they are an invaluable little tool to add interest to your clusters and bring in a little bit of color, and just so easy to use. Just stamp in a little bit so it kind of peeks out from underneath. whatever embellishment you have. But I used the stamp set to create my title. Happy is a sticker. And again, that was from Secret Garden. There's a little bit more of that splatter stamping. And the bees are so cute. There's tiny bee trinkets. I'm getting sidetracked. The word day is a stamp. And you can see that detail on there. The letter's very soft. So I showed in the video how to do like a stamping effect where you add the word day is a solid stamp. So we inked it up and then we stamped on top of it with a darker ink using the elements of text stamp to get that effect. So you can check that out in the video. I will have all of these neatly packaged in a playlist for you so you can easily find any of the layouts you are looking for. But very, very pretty. Love the colors in this one. I even added some of that splatter stamp onto the pattern paper there, just to repeat that element over on this side. This layout is also using a creative design team sketchbook design, and this one's from volume 3, where we have used 6x6 papers to create a 12 by 12 layout, in this case 12 by 24. So the paper is Toadstool Gardens. It is so cute. You could have earned this free during the month of January and February during the celebration event. The stamp and die set, or stamp and punch set, did carry over, so that's still available. Absolutely love the colors in this one, and Katie had used these papers to also scrapbook these photos. You can see Katie's in the pictures with me, so she had the similar photos. Another creative design team trip where we were in Vancouver and we were hiking in Lynn Canyon Park. So I followed the fabulous sketch design very closely. I did add this little strip here, change it up just a bit, but you can see this technique is fun. So the sketch showed 6 4x6 photos. These are actually 4x6. But on this one, using my print to size app, I sized small little photos. These are about 1.7 squared, and I got them onto the footprint of a 4x6 canvas. It's a great way to include extra photos and get those fun little detail shots like a slug. A slug does not need a 4x6 spot on my layout, but he certainly graces a 2x2 spot perfectly. So mushrooms, ferns looking like they're standing up ready for action, and then we saw this cool rock heart shape all in these pretty painted colors, and just some little close-up shots. So definitely a great an idea for incorporating smaller photos there. But yeah, this one's really fun. I absolutely love. It's a simple design, but it's so cute. Definitely one I will use again. This is called the Everyday You and Me collection. This is a single page because I needed a title page for my creative design team Vancouver scrapbooking trip. So, cover page has got to be single, right? And we had this one shot of us in the airport, and it was our first time all being together in person. This title was part of this collection, and I thought that is perfect. So in this design, I used the actual workshop design and then tweaked it a bit. So you can see the changes I made to just kind of give it my own style. But, we've got this great big bold title and we only had one photo. So I added lots of paper layers to really draw your eye to that center photo there. But, the inspiration for the paper pack was drawn from the colors in the photo. We've got these peachy kind of tones up there and then the turquoise. So I thought it worked really well. You can see this kind of ties in with the tones in the floor there. So yeah, that came together really quickly using that layout design. Now I have another one from this same collection, and it created this beach layout. So this pattern paper, I know a lot of us, we saw it and we couldn't help but see ocean, right? Because you water and sand, and I love that beautiful watercolor wash. I didn't want to cover it up, so I was like, how can I add interest to this layout while not covering up the background? My solution was using these hexagon frames. Those are from the Meant to Be dies, and they're nesting hexagons that you can get. They're really unique because you can get the frame or you can get the solid internal piece of the hexagon. So you can use them in different ways. So that allows me to have, like a larger embellishment cluster, but you can still see the background. These are the Seaside Wishes sand dollars here. And then again, this is from Seaside Wishes. The crab is from Ocean Friends, and then I think that this is Beauty of the Deep, if I'm remembering correctly. So I've done a little background stamping to complement the pattern paper, and then of course again printing on vellum to where you can see the pattern paper coming through. We had such a nice time. We were on the beach there. There's little Luna running towards me. It was a foggy, cold morning, but that's okay. It's still beautiful. And I really like how that came together. This was a sticker, from the sticker sheet, so I made that my title, and just thought this was very calm and serene, much like the memory itself. Now this paper collection I actually ended up buying a second pack of because I was having so much fun with it, and I still have more layouts planned. This is the Otterly Adorable, and I actually did document some otters with this paper because the other side of the paper does have actual otters on it. I already shared that in a previous scrapbook layout share, but here I'm documenting under a closed cenote adventure. And we're in Mexico on the Close to My Heart incentive trip. So you can see how the paper just ties in perfectly. And I really love how this one turned out. It was a struggle at first. I had started this at a retreat back in November, and it wasn't coming together because I didn't really have all the supplies I wanted at the retreat. So I put it away and came home and finished it. Now I was proud of myself because this here is an icicle die set, and I repurposed it to be like the little stalactites that hang down from the cave ceiling there. And I thought that that was a great way to get more usage from that die set. But the Otterly Adorable is perfect for, you're going to see some more layouts coming up. This reminded me of the cave walls. And then, of course, water, and there was little fish in the water. So that's why I added these guys. They'd actually come up and bump you, which I thought was pretty cool. In this video, some people comment that that would be their worst nightmare, little underwater creatures coming up and bumping you, but they were tiny little fish. There's some bats up in the ceiling, so I added some bats. I was struggling with embellishments on this one, so that was part of my issue. So I just needed to be home and really be able to dive into my stash and pull all the different elements together. So they're from, these are paperboard shapes that I got at Hobby Lobby. I had some chipboard shapes in my stash. This life jacket's a stamped image, and then the leaves are die cuts from my stash. So yeah, it was really fun to bring this one together. Now this one uses the same collection, and I have mixed in a lot of different stamp sets. Now there's not a process video for this one because it was part of a creative design team membership class where we were discussing complementary colors. So we create multiple projects in each class, and this was just one example. But again, lots of strips of paper, and we have background stamping here with some smaller photos as part of the embellishment cluster. I love just cutting simple banner tails into my paper layers to dress them up and give them a little bit more character. For my journaling, I've used an Avery clear sticker paper. You can see how that pretty much just disappears and looks like it was printed onto the background. This background is more of that woven textures paper. So you can see it's just a very delicate little, almost like a linen or small grain burlap type texture. And I thought it was great to match the sand in the photo just perfectly. So the turtle is no longer available. Sorry about that, but he is a cute stamp that Stampin' Up! Had. I've done some background stamping. So I really enjoy mixing stamping as my base and then adding actual die cuts over it. I really think it makes a nice embellishment cluster when you kind of mix and match those. I've used my Cricut for the title, Tides and Turtles. They basically took us out on this boat, dumped us out, and had us swim back. So it was an interesting excursion, lots of people around, but we did see turtles and some sea stars on the bottom there, so mission was accomplished. But again, you can see how that paper just is so perfect. The ocean, or not Ocean Friends, the Otterly Adorable paper, because, it's got the little ocean fish here and then pebbles and the colors. This strip is actually from Country Woods. I brought that one from the Country Woods wood grain paper collection, another great staple to have in your stash. We've got a couple more featuring this Otterly Adorable collection and woven textures. So here's another texture. You can see kind of like a basket weave texture. And this one, the fun technique was ink smushing. So we were at an open cenote and we were jumping in. There were like little zip lines, or you could just jump off of this platform into the water. And I wanted to mimic that effect of splashing. So I showed how to do some simple ink smushing coming out from behind the photo, like water would be splashing out when you jumped into it. So I thought that that was a really fun, very simple technique to add some background interest, fill in that white space, and really add a complementary image to tell the story. We've got printing on vellum. You can see, I told you that's something I do a lot. And then this is the Happy Hibiscus stamp set. Now the fern is a paper pumpkin add-on die, and the Monstera leaves are from my stash. That's a close to my heart stamp set. The title I stamped and fussy cut out, and I put, you can see just a strip of the Otterly Adorable paper and the water paper, but really it makes a big impact even though you just have a strip here. This is a sketch design that Cindy Jackson, my upline, created, and I absolutely love it. I think it's really cool how she layered the smaller photos down here. This one I created very, very recently here on my channel, but I thought I would include it because it ties in with those other layouts so perfectly. So you can see that same Otterly Adorable paper in the background. We were ziplining in the jungle here, and I love the way this paper kind of just captures that feel. Again, the Happy Hibiscus stamp and die set and woven textures. So I've definitely gotten a lot of use out of those, pairing them together. They work so well together. I had kind of a bigger story, so I used this spot down here and I printed that out on my computer and cut them into strips. There's the mini alphabet die, Jungle Thrills, and you saw I went through several title options if you caught this video before I settled on this one. But definitely a fun adventure, and I enjoyed creating this design. So there are sketches in the catalog, and it's a single page sketch, and that was my jumping off point for this. And then I created a companion page. So if you want to see how we transform those sketches or interpret those sketches, the third Friday of each month, several of my crafty friends and I get together and each share our take on those sketches. So it's always fun to see how everybody uses the same sketch and does something totally different. Now we're switching to Storybook Moments, and it's such a sweet paper collection. I've seen it used for gardening and baby themes, everyday life, really versatile. Here I'm using it for a garden theme. We've got this fabulous strawberry paper, and I'm harvesting strawberries. These photos, normally, let's be honest, we don't usually like the way we look in photos. My son, Clayton, took these photos, and he took his time, and he directed me and posed me, and he seemed to be enjoying actually taking the photos. So that's what this memory is about and why these photos are special to me. So strawberry snapshots, I created that on my Cricut. This collection came with a ton of little punch outs. So that's what these are, the little mouse holding his little pail, strawberry clusters there. I did some background stamping, very subtle second generation background stamping. And second generation or stamping off means that you've inked it up, you stamped it on scratch paper, and then stamped it a second time without re-inking to get a lighter version there. So you can see I added a little stamping down to ground these little critters down here. And this is fun too. It looks like my journaling's printed on one piece, right? This has allowed me to print that out on a smaller piece of paper and then tuck it under there so it looks like one big piece with the printing right on the layout there. And I like to do that when the layout design allows for it. This shows just how versatile this Storybook Moments paper collection is. I have used it to document this amazing cottage in Ireland. This is crooked because I need to add a flip flap. I must have not had my 3x4 flip flaps at the time and forgot to put one in there, so I'll need to do that. But basically there's more photos, so I need to print one more photo and then it will flip up and you can see additional photos there. So this house and cottage was just quintessential what you would imagine of a cottage in the Irish countryside. I mean, just amazing. So Lost in a Fairy Tale, I created that on my Cricut because it truly felt like we were in a fairy tale. I shared the story of my interaction with this little mouse and how I felt like I was in Narnia or something. It was just surreal. Very, very cool. So in this video, I showed these are stamped and watercolored, and I showed how to do a little ink blending so it felt as if the pots had moss on them. I also showed how to make this kind of worn book page here with some stamping and crumbling of the paper and ink blending. Remember that Tags to Go travel set in the beginning where I shared the Vancouver layout with the car keys? This lock and key set is also part of that Tags to Go set, and it is very cool because it's vintage, so I thought it tied in nicely to this particular layout here. This was a frame from the cut apart sheet, and you can see it peeking out here. I cut it in half and just used it as a layering accent. The cottage in the frame here was fussy cut from this pattern paper. So I found one that would fit in the frame and looked somewhat like the cottage in the photos, and just die cut this frame, also from the Storybook Moments collection, and then again a little background stamping. Love my background stamps, especially text stamps. This was the Elements of Text. Very cool. Let's switch gears to birthday. This is the Wildflower Birthday Collection, perfect for birthdays, obviously, but so much more. So my mom and I, it was her birthday, and we just spent the day antiquing and shopping. We bought these cute little crocheted plants. So rather than like happy birthday, I just put special day, and that title was included in this workshop. I did follow along the workshop somewhat, but tweaked it to fit my photos and my style. So she had turned 72, so I used gold foil, the die cut letters. There's a creepy crawly. Can you see that up there? He's coming right for my layout. It's like one of those mosquito hawks. Hey, little dude, go away. Fly away, be free. He's going to come right back. So the gold foiling ties in with the accents that were in this paper collection. So I just used the coordinating dies to cut out 72 and spotlighted them on there. So it's kind of subtle, right? You know, it's not traditional birthday photos, but it still worked really well. And you'll notice here I didn't do cardstock in the background. We went with pattern paper, and I really like it. It turned out great. Very fun day. My mom and I had such a good time that day. She loves antiquing. Here we have another wildflower birthday celebration layout, and here we're documenting my birthday and the funny story of how my balloons were going flat so fast. So I documented about that in the journaling here. All of these are punch outs, so it made this layout come together very quickly because you just popped these out. You didn't have to stamp or color or fussy cut or anything. The same for the cakes and the flower bits. Some of them are stickers, some of them are punch outs. So it made, again, just for a very quick layout. I liked the cake paper here. That's one of my favorite papers in this collection. You can see the gold foiling on the cake. Super cute. So there was the, regular pattern paper collection, the DSP, and then there was a workshop kit. So there were some differences. I did mix and match them. The foiling is part of the regular DSP. The scrapbooking workshop kind of toned down and you didn't have that gold foiling, but they still both fabulous collections. Love the little banner element here. You can see I just dressed up my journaling with this banner tail here and some simple embellishment clusters here. Birthday memories and celebrate are both stamps from this collection. So definitely very usable stamps that you can get your money's worth because we always are scrapbooking birthdays, right? I'm trying to show you, I offset this with a lighter ink to create a shadowed effect. I don't know if you could see that. It's very subtle, but I quite like that effect of using two colors and offsetting it to create a shadow. Now we're getting into some masculine themes. There's not a process video for this one. It was part of a class for the creative design team where we talked about all things masculine. And again, there was lots of projects for that class where I demonstrated, masculine tips and tricks. But this is the layout I made, and this is very special to me. I spent the day with my son, who is a cowboy. That's what his job is. And I followed him along. Now, I went down to the ranch where he works to try out a horse that they were selling. I did end up buying her. She's amazing. Her name's Melby. She's kind of a sweaty, hairy mess here, but I will, eventually do a layout dedicated to her because I just adore her. Lola's still here, but I had to retire Lola. She's just, she's done well and deserved to, be retired. So she's still here, and her and Melby are buddies. But I spent the day with my son riding around. We were checking cows. There's a calf out there. We were just going to make sure he was okay. And we left early in the morning. So I was at first bummed out my son wasn't looking at me when I snapped this photo. But in a way, it's perfect because he's looking out into the pasture, looking for the horses. So it's, to me, captures the memory. Then we found him out there on the ranch, caught him, led him back to saddle. And then, we went about his regular chores that day of just riding through the cows and making sure everything's good, checking fence, all that good stuff. But you can see we've added some corrugated embossing. Again, I talked earlier about how embossing folders can be so fun to incorporate onto your layout. So what started out as a simple strip of paper is so much more interesting with that embossed detail. You can see some splatter stamping there. I dove into my stash for these embellishments. Those are all close to my heart stamps. And then I used my Cricut. That's not print and cut. I actually did cut those letters out and layer them. So that looks pretty cool. And yeah, I just really happy memory for me. Awesome. Even more fun because I ended up buying the mare. Another masculine layout for you. This is featuring the Trusty Tools designer series paper, and there's so many pattern papers with this one, and they're just super cool, so I ended up wanting to add them all, and this was the perfect solution because we just went with strips all the way across for a mirror image, and then just centered the photos decoratively over those layers. And these are from the Trusty Tools stamp and die set, which did carry over. So any of you DIYers out there, or if you have a lot of, just photos where you're working on projects, this is a super cool stamp and die set to have. This is a coordinating die. It's like the pegboard. I cut that out from foil paper and just used it as a layering accent. And yeah, I quite like this. Definitely have some more layouts planned for this paper collection. My husband and Hayden, my oldest son here, were just starting renovation on this house, which is a very slow project. This was my husband's grandfather's house, and he built this house. So that's where I came up with the title, Old Bones, New Beginnings. And I'm really excited to see this house come together. But yeah, it's definitely, my husband works full time and he commutes. So not a lot of time left for projects like this, but it'll come together all in good time. Here's one more masculine layout for you. And it was kind of funny. We just celebrated my, an achievement here on YouTube, and several of my crafty friends were scraplifting me, and a whole bunch of them chose this layout to scrapbook, and nobody knew what anyone else was going to scraplift. So I thought it was super interesting how many people picked this layout. So I guess it's a good one, right? So we were documenting a motorhome road trip up the West Coast. We were on our way to Oregon to watch my son race in a mountain bike race. And I love this place. It was so peaceful. We had raccoons come and visit. So I had fun using my stamps and dies. And this is also 6x6 paper, the timeless plaid paper here. And I was able to line it up to where it looked like one seamless piece back there. Plaid is a very, you can't, in fact, I don't even see it. There it is. there's literally a seam right there where the two papers meet. But because it's a plaid, I was able to line up the patterns and it's just invisible. I literally had to feel for that. So you can also, when you're lining up patterns, strategically layer embellishments over the transition to cover them up. But it's a great way to put those 6x6 paper pads to use when you're a scrapbooker and have a much bigger canvas. Printed my journaling out and then cut it out with a tag for my stash and then just layered those up so you can see that pop of orange coming through here. And I think that really kind of brightened up the layout and made a big difference. But absolutely love how this one turned out, and I'm glad it was a design that so many of my friends could enjoy. Here we have a layout documenting some photos from the Japanese garden at Bouchard Gardens, and I really wanted to capture that Japanese garden feel. So this paper is the Season of Elegance paper. It's a Christmas collection, and I thought it was perfect. What do you guys think? Do you think it's perfect for the Japanese garden? The inspiration was drawn from this red bridge here. So I used the Floral Delight blossoms. These are just a layering stamp and die. I love the branch here, but I just made those red, and I think they kind of remind me of cherry blossoms, which you would see in Japanese gardens. The lanterns were from my stash. I cut this out on my Cricut, and then I used the alphabet a la mode die. So you'll notice there, this is a very fun technique. It's subtle. I'm trying to catch the light. So you can cut two sets of letters in different colors. In this case, I used gold foil paper, and then I cut it out in red, and you just slightly offset it and use liquid glue so you can slide it, and it gives you that kind of drop shadow look, if you will. And it's a great way to add a little wow factor to your title. And it can also make your title stand out more, like if you use a darker color like black or something like that for this shadow. So really cool little effect there. I also added some paint splatter. You can see all that gold paint splatter and the little tiny bee trinkets to fill in this white space and create a fun design there. So it was just fun challenging myself to use Christmas paper. And it's ironic because I've used this paper for everything but Christmas. But sometimes when inspiration strikes, you got to go with it. This is a Cricut cut too that I found and just backed with gray stone paper there. But yeah, isn't that pretty? Such a cool little water feature there. This is a layout I 100% scrap lifted from my friend Jema. She also had achieved a big milestone here on YouTube, so we were celebrating her. And I not only used the same paper, well, I did change up the photos. And I could have used the same photos because she had scrapbooked a trip that we were on together. But it was just so good, so perfect. So I love it because the papers are awesome. Her clusters were awesome. And then this is stamping. All of this in the background is stamping, so it's like making your own pattern paper. Now again, this is just set here. It's a flip flap and it's only tucked in there. I need to put this in its forever home, and then I will attach that to the layout on top of the page protector. But yeah, really fun here. We've got my journaling on an Avery clear sticker. And again, it just disappears into the background there. And you can kind of see the stamping pattern, but still read the journaling there. So lots of stamping, stickers, and I just like the flow of the photos on this one. We were flying from San Francisco to Dublin, and then we landed in Dublin and took a small plane over to Scotland where we spent a week and then flew back to Ireland. It's just how the flights worked out. You're probably thinking, why didn't you just fly into Scotland? Trust me, we found the best possible way to get there, and it was a great adventure. So yes, thank you to Jema for this fabulous inspiration. Really enjoyed recreating this layout. Another stash busting layout. Here I'm documenting a wildlife reserve in Alaska, and this is such a great design when you have scraps. If you're working with old paper packs, even new paper packs, and you want to use up those scraps, these are all strips, and some of them are even smaller pieces. And I've just pieced them together where it looks like one small strip or big strip, but it's broken behind the photos. So I love this design, and this was based off a close to my heart sketch that we were working our way through this sketchbook. I did make some changes, and you can see those in the video. But tons of photos on this layout, so I absolutely love this design. And it's, not a whole lot of room for embellishing, so I just added a little bit of embellishing. But in this case, you only need a little bit of embellishing because the photos are really the star of this show. Again, printed my journaling on vellum, so I didn't hide all of that awesome pattern paper. But not only is this great for scraps, but it's also great for when you want to include all of those fabulous patterns in the collection. This allows you to work them all in. So some of these are stickers, some of them are stamps from my stash. The pine sprigs are from the Golden Greenery vellum paper. I cut those out, whoops. And then of course the log rounds are from the Textured Timber stamp set. And the title was a sticker. So that made that super easy. My friend and I were petting a porcupine. There's a moose. Really fun, quirky adventure here. I shared this is Mr. Crochel. It's called Crochel's Wildlife Refuge. And this guy was a character. He was just as fun as the animals. Another Scotland adventure I created very recently here on my channel using the Take to the Sky paper collection, which is on the last chance section, just by the way. It's so good for masculine and for travel. I did buy a second paper pack. It's just awesome. I love the colors. And as you can see here, it was absolutely perfect for this adventure. We were hiking up the Old Man of Store trail in the Isle of Skye, and it was a beautiful just adventure. So again, to Take to the Sky, I've used those same alphabet a la mode dies and mixed it with a paperboard title I had in my stash. And then this is from the new Scenic Adventures. So I was, again, not sure how I wanted to embellish this page, so I really had to get creative with elements to help recall the memory and capture the feel of what it was like being there. And that's kind of where I came in with the sheep here. That's a stamp set that I fussy cut out because there were sheep all over during this hike, and even though they're not in the photo, I thought it was great to have them here to, help me remember that there were sheep all over the hillsides. The wood grain paper is from the Country Woods wood grain paper collection, and I know I say this all the time, but it is amazing. This is also featuring the Take to the Sky paper collection. I've documented more travel photos. This is Alaska, and we were on a train ride to Denali. So there's that alphabet a la mode alpha die. You'll see me use that quite a bit. These trees are all from the brand new Scenic Adventure die set. And earlier when I showed you that cool stamp set that I like to use the story, and I talked about the icons, I used the camera and the arrow here to let the viewer know there's photos on the back. So that was a fun way to use those little icons. And again, I just stamped the story so that the viewer knows that journaling can be pulled out. And again, I strategically place this to the top of the page so it's very easy to access the journaling. But you can see how well this paper plays into travel. This reminds me of like a topography map. And then this is part of the collection too. And I chose this color because it matches my friend's shirt. It kind of brings out the tones in our skin, and it kind of just brightens up the whole layout there. The Take to the Sky collection has these fun little tags you can cut out as part of a cut apart sheet, and they make great little accents. The ticket is from my stash, and then this is a cricket image here. But really happy with the way this one turned out. And one more take to the sky layout. And again, I'm documenting travel. I did use this collection for a hiking layout, a local hiking layout, and it turned out really cute. I already shared that one in a previous scrapbook layout share. But yeah, it's great for just outdoor adventures in general. And like I said, masculine. So remember how I talked about that hexagon die set, the meant to be, where you can get the outline I showed you on the beach page? This is the inner portion of that hexagon. And again, it's graduating sizes. So this was the smallest one, I believe. And it's a fun way to incorporate lots of pattern paper. Great for scraps if you're working with little bits. And I use the hexagon because we were at the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, which are all these hexagon shaped basalt columns. So I wanted to capture the feel of that. And that's why I used hexagons around the layout, and then just added some simple embellishments you don't need a lot because the hexagons themselves are like embellishments. I did stamp this on the background. That stamp is still available. Everything that's available, I'll do my best to link below in the description box, but of course just ask me if there's something you're looking for and can't find. The tags are part of that cut apart sheet, so I just wanted a little interest in this space here, and I absolutely love how this one turned out. Now I had more photos, so I added those to what we call a Pocket Plus page, and sadly this is a close to my heart product, so it's no longer available. But if you have these in your stash, don't forget about them because they are amazing. So you can add more photos. I like to do some close-up shots with some, just scenery shots, and add a little bit of embellishing. You don't have to fill it up with photos. You could definitely add some embellishing to those open spaces and the journaling. So that is where I included the story. And this will sit in the page protectors or in the album, just like that. And it'll be an interactive element here for, the oh my goodness, I'm just ran out of things to say. An interactive element for a great way to add more photos. There, that's what I was trying to say. Now I have the fun task of putting these all away in their forever albums. So I do have an album review video where I talk about how I organize my albums and my layouts in my albums. So if you want to check that out, if you have not seen it, I'll leave that linked in the description box below. And if you're looking for more scrapbooking inspiration and want to see more detailed information for these layouts, they're in this playlist right here. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I hope you're inspired and you get into your craft room and create something amazing. Bye, everyone.